Apologies for my call. Oh, well, there.
I told him I was ill.
Oh,
Yes.
I'm glad I seen last week. I had 3 coffee fits last week. Oh.
Streaming, this is near as. Yeah, we're now there. Good. Good evening and welcome to this meeting of Woodley Town Council's Leisure Service Committee being held on 2nd of April, 2024. Woodley Town Council meetings are now recorded with recording streamed live and stored on the Town Council's YouTube channel. By virtue of attending the meeting, you consent to having your image and audio recorded for this purpose. If you do not wish your image and audio to be recorded, then please do not stay for the meeting. For those in attendance, we're not expecting a fire drill tonight, so if you hear the fire alarm, please head to the nearest fire exit and congregate at the fire assembly point by the Oakwood Centre at the front of Woodford Park. Thank you. That's all the formal bits done. Apologies for absence.
Yes, we have apologies from councillors Erwala and Smith.
Okay. Any declarations of interest, anyone? Right, okay. And the minutes, it's item 3, minutes of the meeting held on the 16th of January, and they were provided in the full council agenda of the 6th of February. And actions and follow-ups for those. On page 5.
Yes, appendix 4 lists the actions and follow-ups from previous meetings. Hopefully that's all fairly self-explanatory. Does anyone have any questions on those?
Only one, if I may, Mr. Deputy Chairman. Item minute 17, add potential reinstallation of graffiti wall to the council's project list. We have no progress as a progress update. Surely if we add it to the list, that is then the progress made. It's then on the project list.
I think there's no progress beyond that. I think the thinking at the time was to engage with potential use service provider, which is how it came about in the first place, and it would form part of the project in that context rather than just putting something up. And I think that was my understanding of how it came about into being added to the list. So I think that's something that will be picked up when we get to that next bit.
Thank you. I'm happy for it to let us stay on the list because then we can keep it in our mind. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you for that. Right. Anybody else on the action and follow-ups? Okay, next item is item number 5, budgetary control on page 7. Yeah, please. Yes.
So just to note, under all cost codes, they're pretty much where we would expect under expenditure. Staff costs and energy are a little over as previously reported, but overall expenditure is within budget at this point in the year. Obviously, we're pretty close to the end of the year now. Just onto the next page, on page 8, we've got income, which is perhaps a little more interesting in that income is well above in several areas across leisure, partly due to some of the VAT changes, which were reflected sort of favourably in terms of income from charges, but also due to high usage and memberships, increasing memberships. There's a bit more about that in Ed's report in terms of income. So overall income is 119% at March end, and obviously still, February end, and March income still to be added in.
Okay, anybody after any clarifications on that? I just got one little question on that one about VAT changes.
Yeah.
I mean, how long have we got to go to they sort of don't affect it anymore?
It's no longer affecting it in so much as the decision was made by HMRC, and the council has adopted charges for this next financial year.
Yeah.
So it's just that in last year, the change meant that we were benefiting from that change during the last financial year. This year going forward, it's much clearer. We started from a clean slate and councils agreed those charges.
Okay, thank you. Item number 6, which is the Woodford Park Leisure Centre Sport Development and Activities on page 9. What pages is it?
Good evening, everybody. So, first of all, as you can imagine, the gym was relatively busy during this period. I'll talk through the reasons for cancellation first, but as you can see, we welcomed 156 new members through the period 10th of January to the 20th of March. A significant amount of that 156 were in January. And the table doesn't really show anything particularly interesting, other than the main reason people left was because they weren't using the membership or they just didn't tell us. The only one I will pick up on in that first table is one person left because they were unable to book onto exercise classes. There is a little part of my report in a second that I'll kind of explain a bit more about that. The bottom chart, monthly membership income, as you can see, we had a sharp spike, which is reflective of those 156 new members. What I would expect that now to do is plateau and dip a little bit, which it has almost every January since we've had the gym, as those people that have joined kind of for the new year, new me, realise that they're not actually going to carry that on and decide to give up quite early. But there's also a chunk of people that leave because they decide to exercise outside when the weather actually improves. So I would expect that to kind of level out by the time we get to the next meeting.
Anybody, any questions on that at all? Okay. Parks and Buildings, page 11. Oh, sorry, we said
The second page.
Oh, so we said.
That's what I've
So you kind of stopped. You kind of stopped. I thought that was it. Let's carry on.
So
Sorry.
no, that's okay. So second page, we had a little bit of an issue with some of our gym equipment, which in reality is quite small, but actually does affect a few kind of regular members. So it was kind of brought to my attention earlier this year where it's a little bit strange, but the new cardiovascular equipment we've got, so treadmills, exercise bikes, and things like that, is having some trouble displaying all of the Freeview television channels and radio stations that it should do. Now, this is kind of an old-fashioned problem, I suppose, but because of their reliance on it, we investigated it further. We called out a specialist audiovisual company to kind of do some tests to see if that was maybe something to do with the connection points or actually some of our kind of internal, systems or infrastructure. And the result of that was that basically everything is as it should be, so that it must realistically be the new equipment that's gone in, which was the most logical explanation anyway, because the old kit worked fine. I had a meeting with our kind of service manager from Pulse the week before last to kind of follow up on that report and basically said that this is now we need to kind of get an answer to this. So he's gone away. It looks like the next step is that we're going to try installing a new monitor on one of the pieces of kit to see if it could be the software within the monitor itself. I've kind of managed to fix them to a point where everybody's happy, but we're still not getting our full range of features. So I'm hoping to have more on that in the next couple of weeks, basically. But we'll see if the new screen kind of is the solution. But I'm not so sure personally, but we'll see. Kind of following on for the exercise classes, I mentioned we had one person leave because they weren't able to book onto their classes. So this is kind of really an issue that's been kind of brought forward as a result of our increased membership, which is kind of both a good thing and also a problem at the same time. So with more members, we've got higher demand for exercise classes, and in particular during January when everybody wants to go to the classes, we sometimes had waiting lists as long as the capacity for classes. That's become a little bit less of an issue now that we've had some more people leave, and at the same time people aren't as interested. But what we've done just in the short term to kind of try and alleviate some of that is introduce something called flexi classes, which is basically classes that we can add into the timetable at short notice using some of our regular instructors that change throughout potentially the seasons to keep people interested, and basically run at times when there are already other classes running, so that we can kind of almost double our capacity during the peak times. That's been received relatively well. The new timetable goes live tomorrow morning, and it will increase our capacity for exercise classes by about 40 people a week. So that hopefully we'll solve some of the problem. I do think again that potentially next January we'll have the same problem again. And we may have to add in even more, but we'll react to that depending on what the numbers are like at the time. The sports hall heating project was completed in early March. Not very exciting really, but we did our best to make sure that the majority of bookings and sessions that we run regularly weren't disrupted. That went okay, but of course there was no heating. They had reduced hall space and there was a bit of noise disruption through those sessions. So we did give hirers and users the choice about whether or not to kind of come within that 3-week period. All in all, the heating now works really well. If anything, it works a little bit too well because we haven't quite worked out how to get it to the right setting yet. So we're having to turn it on and off and still learning as we go through. But yeah, really well. The 3G pitch opening hours, we received planning approval for that in mid-March. So now we can take bookings until 9:30 on Tuesdays, Wednesdays and Thursdays, which of course is great because that will increase usage. I've been working with youth sports in an attempt to try and bring back carnival football, which I don't think has run this side of COVID. Used to be a 2-day tournament. I think 1 day for the girls, 1 day for the boys. Was really good. Was always held on the grass pitches at Wood Park. And youth sports are trying to bring that back. They're taking the lead on that, so the structure of the tournament will be kind of up to them. But I have had confirmation they're looking to do separate boys and girls again, which is good. And they're planning to do that the day before with the carnival as well. So we'll see how that goes. They're obviously now in the process of engaging with schools to see kind of what the interest and the uptake might be like. So, we hosted a Sport in Mind and Sport England filming day. That was mid-March, I think, Monday the 18th of March. The Sport in Mind session that runs with us on the Mondays has grown significantly over the last couple of years. Whereas originally it was 2 or 3 people playing badminton, there's now a full hall of around 30 people who come along every week to play badminton and a little bit of table tennis as well. So it was identified by Sport England as a really kind of positive session. So they came along with the film crew and did some interviews with some of the clients and some of the staff and the coaches and things like that. Which was great, and it was nice to have kind of some different going on as well. There's been a couple of posts on social media about it, but the film hasn't been released yet. So I don't know if it's going to be part of a bigger film with other sites just to kind of show the good work that Sport in Mind do, or whether it's specific to our site. But I've asked that when the film is released, we get sent it so we can have a look as well. Works on the paddling pool have started. We're planning to open that, weather permitting, on the 25th of May. It will be kind of up and running a couple of weeks before then, whilst we treat the water, train staff and things like that. So that should be popular. That's the day before the bank holiday and May half term, I believe. And just a little update on cricket facilities, really. I mentioned in the report in January that Woodley Cricket Club were having a bit of an issue with the league in terms of the facilities, that the leisure centre weren't able to meet the criteria, the new criteria for the league, and that they might be forced kind of to either not play at Woodford Park or leave the league. They've kind of I've had a couple of meetings with them to discuss some of their ideas, and I've kind of told them that actually this is probably part of the task and finished with Woodford Park Development Group. That we discussed that a couple of times in that meeting, and so is there just a little note to let you know that they're still really keen to get what they want, I suppose.
Yeah, I'll be really to see that film, and I think we'll just put it on the map, which is good stuff. And Carol?
Yes, a couple of questions. The exercise classes or the use of the gym in general, you've got your usual January spike and your usual drop-off.
Yes.
But have you had any ideas about keeping that drop-off to the minimum? I mean, it happens every year. We are up to April now, 4 months on from the dreaded Christmas wait, but you've still got people hanging in there, or?
Yeah, so we do our best. It's one of the reasons we consistently relaunch the timetable, because it's a big call for people. And we continue to do things like engage with members, talk to them, ask them how things are going. I'm always encouraging staff to go into the gym and actually ask people for feedback as well. It's also why we work really hard to keep it clean, because things like that make a big difference. But I'm hoping that because of the new kit going in December, that drop-off might not be as severe this year. But it's the same everywhere. People join, they maybe have a couple of months, and then they get fed up and go do something else. And,
It's the way of the world, isn't it?
it is indeed, yeah. But yeah, we do try.
And the second question was, under cricket facilities, it says that Woodley Cricket Club are determined to improve the cricket facilities, which sounds as if they're going to develop another cricket square or whatever. It just sounds as if they're going to improve.
No, I think they would like to. So they've so they've got basically the league, the cricket league merged with a couple of other leagues in this area. So there's going to be one big cricket league, and what they did, similar to what the FA have done for football, is come up with a set of criteria for each facility that one of their teams plays at has to meet. So that might be, for example, the standard of changing rooms. In this case, they need a separate changing room for the umpires. They need away team changing room, home team changing room, a separate toilet for the umpires, toilets for the teams, showers, a certain standard of wicket, and cover, access to water, things like that. Now, some of those things we've never been able to offer, and so they're kind of new requirements as well. And obviously not easy to just pop up, I guess. So we kind of are doing what we can for this season, and they've agreed they're going to play here this season as well. And the league's given them a kind of pass for a year because very short notice, in my opinion. But next season, so 2025, they're going to struggle, and the likelihood is they wouldn't be able to play at the site unless we tick a lot of boxes, really. So I think where I've written they're determined to improve is they kind of want, they're determined for us to improve it. Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
that's okay.
Dave,
Are you going to pay anything towards it, the cricket people?
There's been some variants, but there's been some investigation into potential funding opportunities. Still very early days, and I'd be surprised if the ECB would fund anything towards changing them. It's more likely they'd be looking to fund towards the surface and the pitch itself, but it's being looked into. Basically.
It's just, well, football, they give money so that you can improve the facilities.
Yes, yeah, football, the FA have got a lot more money, basically, than the ECB do. But yeah, I don't think they would fund it to that extent. No.
No.
There might be small grants, but nothing significant.
Sorry to push you on this, Ed, but going back on the cricket, presumably then, as a member of the working party looking at the upgrade of the facilities at Woodford Park, if we are to comply with the cricket league's requirements of additional showers, changing facilities for the umpires, toilets, presumably we've got to take that into consideration. Otherwise, cricket can't be played at Woodford Park. Is that right? League cricket can't
That specific team wouldn't be able to play cricket at Woodford Park. No, and I suppose that would be ultimately a decision for you guys to make.
Okay.
It might be that actually the most logical decision is for them to find somewhere that has all the facilities they already need. Yeah, that could be could be the way it goes. I think ultimately they would prefer to stay where we are, but the list of requirements is relatively significant. So there'd be a choice to be made.
I think it's probably worthwhile recognising that at the moment the Leisure Centre isn't a sports club and doesn't provide club facilities like you would find at a rugby club or a football club that has those individual changing facilities and referee facilities. It does have the old change rooms there, as you will have seen going around, but the cricket club are really the only people that use that. So at the moment, there are no other clubs in the area that are fighting for us to provide those facilities. So any money spent funding that would, at this moment in time, be only used by those cricket clubs, and that provision of cricket is already quite heavily subsidised by the council anyway. So any additional spend on that might be difficult to argue, but it depends, as I say, on the working group and what comes out in the future survey.
Okay, thank you. Right.
Wasn't it? Sorry, no, yeah, it wasn't a question. It was more to back up what Ed said about the gym equipment. It's a common problem throughout the gym industry.
Okay.
The Freeview stuff. The gym I frequent, which I won't name, but is down at Thames Valley Park and has a network across the country, has never fixed theirs.
Really? Okay.
Never fixed it. So I don't know. Let's hope that they do get fixed, but don't hold me up.
I've got a theory about why I think it doesn't work,
Okay.
and I think it's to do with the fact that the signal's being picked up by multiple stations.
Yeah.
But one of the problems we've got is that our exercise bikes and cross trainers are self-powered, So
Oh,
in an attempt to fix them, you have to consistently exercise.
right.
So that's not, yeah, I have a work experience could help me out with that actually.
Just
Yeah,
exercise.
it's still there, yeah, still going, yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I noticed that when I was in the back of house system that sometimes it picks up a bathing stove and sometimes
That's
it's a
right.
gill
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
I think that's where it's almost resetting every time it powers off. Most kit hours turned off in the evenings because places will try and save money.
Do you ever get no signal at all?
No.
Okay. Interesting.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
That's great. So you see all these people cycling away. keep-
Yes.
Okay, I've got to age mine now. I'm number 7. Parks and buildings on page 11.
Thank you. Ed's already covered the sports hall heating system. Next item there at Woodford Park. We have an area of the viewing gallery overlooking the sports hall just temporarily barriered off. We had some concerns about some cracking in the block work of the wall there. Repair to that is being considered in the context of other works that we know need doing in the centre, which is tied into the work being discussed by the Woodford Park Leisure Centre development task and finish group, and there is a plan to move that forward in the very near future. Car park markings have been installed at Woodford Park Leisure Centre, the open centre and the community halls, which was carried out by the amenities team and funded from the capital programme. That's all much better. That includes the walkway signage, signage, as well as the parking spaces and disabled spaces, etc. Water bottle filling station, we've got the unit finally, and we are just waiting installation. So with Colin and his team to install very soon. That, just for reference, was a large mains water bottle filling station for the public, which will be available for. It's a very robust unit, and I think that's probably going to get quite a lot of use both with sports teams and with casual users. Play area damage. One of the damaged panels previously reported has been replaced, which is one of the internal ones that we could get to. There is a further panel to be replaced later in the year when we have an access platform lift in for doing some other jobs, guttering at the leisure centre, so that will be carried out then. The rotating swing, the one with the 3 legs on, is out of use at the moment due to some issues with the bearing assembly. It's very heavily used and had become loose. So we came out last week to have a look at that. Replacement insides are being sorted out for that. Memorial Ground pathway reinforcement. That work is scheduled for week commencing 15th of April. So since the fun fair has left. That is the installation of grass reinforcement matting from this corner on the Memorial Ground over there where that design line path is, and that's one of the capital programme project items. And that will be carried out by the amenities team. We've installed a pump on the rainwater harvesting tank on the back of this building, which means we hooked up to hose pipes so that the French will particularly get benefit from that instead of having to use watering cans for that. It's just an add-on that's going to make that a bit easier for them. Likewise, there was a request for a water trough in the Garden of Remembrance, so that's due to go in. It's not mains fed, but the grounds team can easily fill that from the bowels, which just means that there's a water source there for people watering shrubs. There's quite a lot of people who've got things planted in there, like to look after them in that way. So I think, but again, the French food is comes to this with. Tree works, we had 6 of the large poplars which were located around the grounds maintenance yard area, and we had concerns about safety which were flagged up in the survey due to their size and proximity to the pathways, public areas and the work areas in the yard. A lot from those will remain on site as bug habitat essentially. Bowls Green, the new maintenance regime introduced last year along with the irrigation system, has meant considerable improvements to the fine turf surface on the green, and that's been prepared for the start of the season in April. Wildflowers areas have been seeded. The shrub bed area to the front of Coronation Hall is undergoing some work, and that's going to be replanted out. It's always been a bit half a job is probably the best term for it. So that's undergoing some work, and the grounds team are going to do something very nice in that. We're looking into the potential for a pathway around the sports pitches at the far end from Ancient Close and coming around back round to the leisure centre. We've been looking at a couple of options for that and getting some rough idea of prices. The intention there is for that to form part of an assessment of pathways in the park. And we've got some other issues which we're aware of, particularly with the wetter weather we've had, which is entirely possibly going to be the way forward. I think we're probably in for quite a long wet years to come. So we are doing an assessment on those pathways. That might be a significant project. So we'll have something going to strategy and resources with regard to potential funding for that. Moving on to allotments, currently 78 tenants on the waiting list. That might have changed a little bit since this was written, and 30 vacant plots to be allocated. We're meeting on a monthly basis, or as often as requested by the tenants committee, following a period of uncertainty. The committee at one point were saying they wouldn't be able to continue carrying out plot inspections, which is a big issue for us from a resource point of view, because we've relied really heavily on those volunteers for quite a long time. They've had some changes of individuals within the committee, and we've had some really positive meetings. They have confirmed they can continue with that process. We've made it simpler and as simple as it needs to be for them to help us with it. So we've got a good way forward with that. I attended their AGM last week, along with the amenities manager, and just to provide an update on a couple of issues, particularly one being bonfires, which I know this committee's talked about in relation to that decision to prohibit them from January 2025, and also to talk to them about the roadways and have a plan for that in terms of funding, which is essentially the roadways are in really poor condition. They used to be maintained by a working group of tenants who would come each year and using loose materials, which were sourced from elsewhere. They'd have a whole day on it, kind of 20, 30 people, and just patch things up, and that worked well for a time. That hasn't been able to happen for the last couple of years. The individual who used to sort of galvanise people to make that happen sadly passed away. So that hasn't been possible. What I am looking at is a more permanent solution, which is one of levelling out of those pathways, bringing in some a more solid compacted surface along the main roadways around the site. And there will be a report going to strategy resources to designate some earmarked reserve funding towards that. It's kind of sat there in development at the moment. So that's the plan for that. I do have a survey going out to all tenants very shortly, largely to gather information in respect of bonfires and people's activities and how that happens. Because at the moment it's slightly unquantified in terms of how many bonfires, how many tenants are doing that, what materials they are composting, and just to try and get some more information to feedback to get offers. I think that's it.
Thank you. Please clarify. Yes, I've got Kay and then Carol.
At the weekend, when the car boot sale was on, I was told by quite a few people that the toilets were unable to be got into, the rainbow toilets at the end of the thing, and there was no number where they could contact anybody.
I was contacted, and we did go over to attend to it. There appeared to be no problem with access, and we haven't established what that was. I'm trying to find out.
They couldn't get through with the key apparently, or they couldn't get through with the money.
Okay.
Couldn't the money, and that's, I was told by loads of people. I only stayed there for a little while, but
Yeah. Okay. Our venues chap went straight over, so I spoke to him and happened to find a problem. Our maintenance guys did go over this morning and just make sure it was all okay. So
Oh,
it's working. Whether something was possibly jammed.
I was going to say, I was told by quite a few people because they basically set up early and couldn't get to a toilet. There wasn't any toilets around them.
Right, that's helpful. But as far as I'm aware, it's working.
Great.
The issue with the number, I've spoken to the meetings manager today, so we can get that number. We do have a call out number, which is not listed on there at the moment, and it will be. So
Oh, thank you. That's great.
That's sorted out.
Okay, Carol, and Bob.
Yes, thank you. Looking at pathways around sports pitches, I understand that the pathway by, not the sports pitch, but by Coronation Hall gets flooded. Will that be considered as well?
Yes.
Okay. And then on the allotments, what was it? Oh, the roadways. It constantly floods at the gate, and you have to park in a particular place and then leap from your car, and then leap back in again. I presume that part of the repairs will be trying to solve that issue.
Yes, it will. We have done that in the past. We raised the area. In the last 2 years, we've had so much rain, which is kind of unprecedented. We can see that that's still a problem.
It is.
One of the other problems is the plots along El Road, so to the left as you go in the gate. Obviously, over this last season have been very wet, and we're probably not going to be able to solve the drainage problem in that corner. There's nowhere for water to drain to from there. So what we are looking at, and we'll be doing is speaking to tenants there to see what the potential is to migrate them to another plot somewhere else, which is easier said than done. People are quite attached to their plots, so they've certainly put a lot of work in a period of time. But yeah,
The area where the diggers were in and dug that trench to, I think we're trying to uncover something, find something. That's filled with water at the moment,
Yes.
so it's acting as quite a good drain, but I don't know how efficient that is.
Yeah, probably not. I think what we were looking at was we understood that there might have been something within that bramble area there that was draining somewhere that wasn't.
Yeah.
And with the water table being that high, it does drain towards that corner. But you could dig a massive hole, it would just fill up with water straight away, and you couldn't really be any further forward. So that's the problem.
And as of yesterday, there's a massive dead flat rat at the gate. It's all run over, hugely squashed. Just thought I'd mention that to lighten up. I went to my allotment yesterday. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol.
I'm going to cough now, it's my turn. Hey, I wonder if the toilet was shut because of the change of the clocks. Would that have anything to do with it? Because you can't go in at a certain time, can you? That played anything up to it?
That's a good thing.
Just a thought, you know. But it's always whenever
No, it was Friday. It was Friday that
Oh, yeah, because they weren't open on Sunday. The carpet wasn't on Sunday, was it? No.
it was Friday that
I got caught by practically every stall holder that I walked past, I think, to say that they hadn't been able to go to the toilet.
But whenever I go to it, it's always open. It's great. 3 weeks.
We'll check the time.
I actually didn't check it myself. I just believed everybody that said that they couldn't get there.
It could just be the phone call might just be chink out, yeah.
Chairman, yeah, the proposed prohibition of bonfires on the allotments, which I think was my suggestion when it came up at the working group, the allotments working group meeting. Can we mitigate this by providing additional skips so that tenants can dispose of their waste in a skip rather than burn it?
So, yeah, so the thing to be assessed is based on how many bonfires we think there are, what materials are actually being burned, whether it's green waste or whether it's
Household waste, I
other
should
things.
imagine.
There's a carbon impact obviously to having a skip and a great big lorry bringing it in, and what happens to that material afterwards. It's a possible solution, so that's something we're investigating along with some other things. What I'm trying to get a feel for is how many people are using it for that, and how many people are burning other things, because a lot of the comments that came back about the potential impact of stopping the bonfire was you're going to have a lot of flighting, which suggests that a lot of the things being burned are not dry green waste, they are wood, it's carbon or whatever that might be, which is a slightly different issue, and one of waste removal from the site generally. We do provide skips for waste other than green waste every year, and they go in around the Maybank holiday. Two large skips that we provide, and the tenants committee manage what goes in those. So tenants are encouraged to hold on to some stuff that's from the site, not stuff brought onto site. We do get rid of it then, but it might be that something like that might need to be increased particularly.
Well,
Thanks, Mike. Michael, I've been corresponding with a lovely chap called Peter. And the problem with the bonfires not being allowed is quite a few people burn wood specifically to get potash out.
The onions.
And so there is a specific reason for it. Yes, there's people like me who would take a pallet and an old carpet and have a good old burn up. But there's also quite a few gardeners up there and allotment holders that actually burn particular things to get an end product. So it was, so when we discussed it ages ago, wasn't it now? We sort of done a broad brush, no bonfires, and I do think it's something that we do need to revisit and discuss again as a group at some point.
Yeah, and once I've got that information collated and a bit more of what we're dealing with, I think that will be a good conversation.
Yeah.
There are alternatives as well. You can offset, if it's something you can't stop, you can offset carbon impacts by doing other things. So there are other things to look at. And just on that, without laboring it too much, there was a very helpful gentleman at the tenants AGM who was a molecular physicist. Some very useful information about the carbon impact of a bonfire as against composting, depending again on what materials you're dealing with.
The same, isn't it the same though? Because everything
It should, in theory,
down,
it's the same, but it probably comes down to what's actually being burned.
Yeah,
and what
it's all carbon.
condition it's in. No.
okay, I think you learn something new every day, yes. Be careful what you burn. Yeah, I mean, it's just really to note that report, so thank you for that. On to number 8, which is the Youth Support Service Task Finish Working Group on page 14. Think is Kelly.
Has anybody got any questions to do with the report?
Just a comment to see how refreshing it is to get some young people that are interested in wanting to do something, and there's a proposal, which is great. So the meeting wasn't just talking shop.
Well, no, it wasn't. It was really interesting. 2 young people there had some very good comments. I guess.
It helped us clarify our thoughts as well on the type of venue that we would want to provide in terms of what would attract young people, and they felt quite strongly that providing somewhere in somewhere like Woodford Park Leisure Centre would not be attractive because it would be seen as authority and, you know, something that they didn't really want to engage with, and having a less formal, more of a coffee bar type drop-in.
Yes, they made it quite clear that they didn't really want to organise youth workers on site sort of thing. They would prefer to obviously there would have to be, and they appreciate that there'd have to be adults there, but they don't necessarily have to be, you know, there to educate them or to do anything. They just need to have somewhere safe that they can actually just chat and meet each other.
Just to say, it's probably worth noting about the resolution with Berkshire Youth to undertake a youth engagement project. Just to give a little more detail about that, it's not clear in here. Berkshire Youth are intending on undertaking a version of their youth survey that they do with all schools in Berkshire, with schools in Woodley slightly earlier, but the town council is going to work with them to try and promote responses with those schools. They're also planning on doing some outreach work during half-term week, I believe, where they'll be going out and trying to engage with young people either in the park or in the town centre to get their thoughts and views. And they also plan on running 2 activity sessions during the summer holidays for young people, of which again they'll use that as an opportunity to discuss with young people and get some opinions back on that. So I think that piece of work that Berkshire Youth are going to do is going to be really helpful in feeding into the thoughts and help push that project along again as well.
Thank you.
Yes, it was quite positive, didn't it? We had a lot of really good vibes.
Yeah, I was actually at that meeting as well. I concur with that. It's great to have young people there because they are the customers, if you like, and just try and find out what they want. And, I mean, I think also we should remember that we were young ones, so we a long time ago, but how we would perhaps react to it, probably the same way they would.
Well, this is the thing, we always reacted better to things that aren't organised and thrust at them. I mean, there's always been, from the youth service before we had it, it was always you had to educate the youth. They have enough education when they're going to school. They do not want to have the same sort of thing going at them. And we all know that because I doubt very much if any of us wanted to go somewhere that we were educated in the evenings and when we're having fun. You know, I think you just got to make it more positive for them, somewhere that they can actually gain experience maybe without actually endangering themselves whilst doing it.
Well, they're learning sort of to basically to socialise, which kind of they are learning now, and we all learn that. So in the way they are, but it's going to be fun rather than being.
Yes. I mean, it was easier when we didn't have phones, did we? So we actually socialised with our contemporaries. We didn't. They nowadays sit at home or sit in the cafes. You can see them. They're sitting together on their phones.
You probably no, I'm always joking. They're texting each other.
Some of them do. No, I thought it was really good. It's a good start to it anyway.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Has anyone else got any questions on that? No. Okay. Thank you very much for that one. Now, community youth partnership page 16.
Oh, sorry. Yes, it's me again.
It is, yeah, sorry.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I presume you've all read it. Have you got any comments on any questions on this? Yes, Carol?
Yes, just a comment really. Unlike Ron, just been looking at the Youth Support Services group. This one is a talking shop. And I'm never convinced why we've got two committees that deal with the youth.
Yeah.
Especially when we're talking about maybe funding of this and funding of that. You'd think that the two would work much closer together, or better still, just have one committee that deals with it. There's nothing apart from the recommendation about the terms of reference. It's just a talk shop, and nothing seems to be coming out of it. Maybe that was just where it was this time, but I do feel we ought to be looking at how we use member time and our resources to support youth, and actually maybe combine these two, or look at a different way of achieving what they're trying to achieve.
Youth partnership is quite a large group when they all come, and they consist of organisations, youth organisations throughout Woodley. So we've got the gym club. We have we did also have Graham Sumner from the youth clubs, the churches do. We usually have just around the corner. He wasn't able to come this time, and we get a lot of information back from all of them. But the smaller group was actually formed from this partnership, so that it could work things out quickly without having a huge amount of people sitting around the table making their own ideas and not getting anywhere. In the past, this youth partnership, we've had our youth partnership in Woodley for the past 28 years, I should think, and I've been with it effectively most of that time. And it has always worked so that all the youth organisations in Woodley are able to come and give their opinion and hopefully get involved. And we used to have the schools, but they dropped off. We had the we used to have the youth clubs, but of course there aren't any youth clubs now. So the clubs are formed by the churches, and the churches have always come and given their help with anything that's needed. We are actually going out again, once again, to the organisations like the Girl Guides, the Scouts, all the other, there's Army cadets, aren't there, that we really need to get them involved as well, because that's the way that if you have a big organisation like this, a big party, then you do get the full idea of what's happening in Woodley, and it's not actually biased in one way or another, because everybody has their say and is able to sort things out. I mean, we do have ARC sitting on this committee as well, but unfortunately there seem to be very few at this meeting. I know, I think must have been the wrong date or something, but usually we do have quite a few people there.
I was going to just to follow up on what Councillor Gilder said. I think there was a conversation that was had with the group after the meeting finished about a need to get more people engaged in the group, because it has been static in terms of the people that have been on it. Definitely in my time, and I've only been here for 3 years, but it has been static. And actually, for it to be an effective partnership, there needs to be a far wider range. We've managed to get the Thames Valley Police engaged to want to come to these meetings and happy to come to these meetings. I had a conversation with them straight afterwards, and they were happy to be involved. And we did. I agreed after the meeting finished, which is why it's not in the report, that I'd be going out and advertising the group. There's 10 voluntary sector representative spaces on there. I don't think if we got inundated, there'd be an issue with this committee considering increasing that if we did. But I think at this stage, we want to aim to try and fill those 10 spaces with people from a variety of organisations and use it as a genuine partnership to work together on youth ideas. Whereas I think the problem at the moment is it's been the same people on there for a number of years, and it needs some new people in. So just to back up what Councillor Gilder says, we are going to go out to the youth organisations highlighted by the Youth Support Service Work Group and invite them to attend and be part of this group.
Thank you. No, sorry, just Carol first, then you move on.
Just to continue, just be quick. Yeah, it definitely needs new blood. I mean, we saw that the discussion would have been, we need new blood, let's have a look into it. Matt, thank you. You worked outside of the meeting, and that's great. We've got somewhere, but it's, I mean, you know, as you know, I've been on the town council before, and we just see the same people coming in each time, and it's not representative. And there's a reason why. We need to know that reason, and we need to sort it.
I was just going to ask, as a relative newcomer, what the objective of the group is. Is it an exchange of ideas between community groups, or
it's information gathering as well as exchanging ideas, because
Right.
obviously we want to get the youth actually back into society if it's drifted out. And then we in the past have had quite a bad session with youth, and we took a long time, but we did organise things with the youth partnership. And this was years and years ago, we did have a problem with drugs, we did have a problem with antisocial behaviour, and then of course we had Jack just around the corner sorting that out, and that was good. They seem to have been doing a lot, and also they gave us an awful lot of information and on what was happening. They couldn't obviously tell us individuals, but they could tell us what was happening and how the police and they were working together and how the other organisations were working together with them. And, you know, it actually gave you some idea of what happened with the youth themselves, because they often won't tell people what they want, or if they will tell you what they want, but they want it something pie in the sky. But, you know, they need to be involved as well. And we did used to have a couple of youths on the committee at one time, and it was very good. We did have a lot of people that were, we had Levi, who was a policeman, but he was also to deal with youth. We had Kay Nyper, who was a worker, a youth worker. She now only deals with special needs children. you know, we had a lot of these people who were really involved in youth and wanted to make.
It's sharing of ideas.
It's sharing of ideas and information.
Forward or.
I'd say if you refer to the terms of reference which happen to be included here,
Okay.
for all of the working groups, what we should be aiming for and moving forward with neatening these up as we go along a bit, to make sure that those terms of operation list really what the activities are of the group and what their aims are. So that's what you should do. And that's just reminded me from that conversation. We're also on the community youth partnership, one thing we did say, young people this time, for the first time, were invited through the link of Woking Borough Council as the young people that attended the youth support service meeting were invited to this meeting, but because they were so close, they didn't come to this. But in future, they will be always invited to this, and this is where we expect. So we'll have young people represented on there as well.
Rob.
Thank you, Michael. I agree with what Carol said, wholeheartedly. I've been doing it on and off for 9 years, and we don't seem to be making huge amounts of progress with this area. To that end, I think we all really could actually sit in on one of these meetings. Are they Zoom or in person?
The youth partnership are normally in person, but
Yeah.
they're run as hybrid meetings, so wherever, if you can come in,
I think
if you want to be online.
Yeah, I think I will endeavour to watch in the next one to make sure I've got a better understanding of this. But you said a working group. This isn't a working.
That's my fault.
This
This is partnership.
This will come on every year forever and ever and ever. And I do like to see actions reached. So I'm just making a comment really, but yeah, I think we should as a leisure services committee, I think we should all be aware of what the other committees are doing. And have a watch in and see what's going on.
Thank you. Anyone else need points of clarification? I mean, reference has been made to the terms of reference. Has anyone got any particular points on that? Oh, it's on page 18 and 19. It's part of the same item.
Oh, right, okay.
Recommendation.
That's pressing.
Well, it's just on there. I mean, it was raised before, so I'm just wondering if anybody wants to. It's a pretty valuable document to say at least, so.
I think so. The two youngsters that came were from Wokingham. They weren't from Woodley. It would be a good idea if we could get two people from Woodley, and not necessarily the.
Well, hopefully, we will.
And two ordinary people from Woodley who'd like to come and.
Yeah, well, hopefully, one of the things that the, forgive me if I get the terminology wrong, but it's the working party that was set up that I'm on, you chair, Kate.
Yes.
We will get a youth council that will be solely representative of young people who live in Woodley. And if that youth council can be set up quickly, maybe that's the way forward. They rather than have a community youth partnership, we can have the youth council feeding into
Where
this
the
committee.
community use would not, then wouldn't have the clubs or anyone else involved with it, would they? You know, you're talking, there's one of the clubs, which is one of the biggest clubs in Woodley, which is the gymnastics club, which has 1,000 members. They sit on the youth partnership.
I'm talking about youth council.
That is.
Which is one of the recommendations, I think, that came out of.
That is the youth, the community youth partnership is the one where all the clubs and things are involved. The smaller committee, which we were on, is to actually get things moving in the right direction quickly.
Still think we're talking at cross purposes.
I can understand what you're
A
saying.
youth council consists of young people who live or work or are taught in Woodley, and will be sitting on a council and will be feeding into this committee their ideas for the young people in Woodley. That would be my vision.
That sound a little bit separate, but they're feeding into it, as you say.
Yeah, but I think it's one of the recommendations of the.
In terms of operation, in the youth strategy, it was agreed that the council would consider the best way of encouraging young people to get engaged in the democratic process, and the town council activities, and one of the suggestions in that is to consider whether a youth council might be a way of doing that and engaging them. So if that group decide to pursue that and move that forward, then obviously we could consider and we can move forward and try and set up a youth council. And I think if the youth council was set up, the relationship between the youth council and this committee and the community youth partnership would then evolve as it moved on. There's nothing that would stop anyone from seeing how that works and just allowing that to then move naturally into the best position to get more action. So, but that's further down the line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for that one. Right. Where are we now?
There's the recommendation.
Oh, the recommendation.
There's a recommendation under item 9 to just adapt the terms of reference because of the removal of the specific youth project fund.
Or it's the ad hoc fund, isn't it?
Yeah. It's to do the section 5.1, 5.4D and 5.3.
Yeah, and it's all it's saying is that specific project fund budget line no longer exists, therefore to remove reference to that, but that doesn't prevent the partnership from recommending additional funding is given to any projects that come along. And the fund that was there was rarely used anyway, so that's
It's a bit of tidying up.
It's tidying up really, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, do we need a formal vote on that?
Yeah.
Yes.
I propose.
I'll
Okay,
second.
second, okay. Show of hands to support that. Everyone. Thank you. Item 10, page 20. 3G pitch steering group. It's a bit of a tongue twister, that one. Which I've been involved with that. I know David Bragg is the chairman, so. Anything else to say on that? Any? Well, kind of put me down to me because I'm on that committee as well on being, so. I mean, there is a recommendation there as well, recommendations on that as well.
So just to give some background to members that aren't members of that 3G pitch committee, what we tried to do this year was pull together a specific 3G pitch management development plan, which you'll see under Appendix B, which is on page 25, that tries to pull together all the information that the Berks and Bucks FA require the council to evidence that it is doing in order to meet its funding, the funding agreement that was made 7 years ago when the council offered 3G pitch. So none of that information is particularly new, but what it is for the first time pulled into one single document, so that on an annual basis, when it comes to the 3G pitch working group, that can be considered as a single document, updates made and then brought to this committee for hopefully if the group recommend it for approval, and then we can publish that online as well to be nice and transparent about it.
Yeah, I mean, perhaps I just add to that as well. In the comment from the report is that the pitch is performing well, so it's sort of wearing a bit, but it's doing kind of what it should be doing and wearing where it should be wearing. Anybody has any particular?
My only comment on page 28 would be the management plan for finance. We're saying we transfer £12,000 into the earmark reserve to pay for a new 3D pitch in 10 years' time. Well, in 10 years' time, I can tell you the cost of a 3G pitch won't be 120,000. It will be something like 150,000. So, the question is 12,000 enough to be putting aside? Should we be making provision for inflation and put a bit more?
Is the answer. That was discussed, and we're establishing what the likely costs are going to be at the point of replacement now, so that we can adjust that in the budget over the next couple of years.
Just to explain how the document was set out, the management plan was how the pitch is currently being managed.
Yeah.
And section 4, which starts on page 32, is the development plan, which is how the council's considering changing and developing that moving forward. You'll see in the top section finance, there's the reference there to being made that is all going to be reviewed, as Kevin said. So that was how the document was attempted to be set up.
Thank you, Matthew.
Can't we just link it to RPI? My pension has just gone up 7%, so can't we just, can't we 12,000 this year and 7% or
I
whatever
think
it
we
is?
can probably be quite accurate about it once we get a cost in, and we can link that to it from there. But we get up-to-date costing and more accurate estimate of lifespans. We know we've got 3 years left. We need 20,000. Factor that in. Can be ready.
Give anybody, okay, we've got a couple recommendations there, so. Proposing.
Agreed to,
Carol's proposed, Kate a second.
It's fine, we don't need a proposal
Oh.
seconder for recommendations in reports. That saves you doing that, you can just move straight to
Oh,
the
of course.
Nothing now.
I know, spell the whistle for the rest of it. Okay, well, we got to show, we all in favour of that?
Yes.
Yeah, we all on. Okay. Now we got page, item 11 on page 55. Is the report of the virtual meeting of the Woodford Park Leisure Centre Development, part of the finish with. Any comments on that? And, I mean, there is a recommendation. Do we go straight to?
You can do. I suppose just to give a bit of backing to that, I think obviously, as highlighted earlier in Kevin's report regarding the walls in the sports hall, we had a condition report undertaken which showed that some of those walls are showing signs of cracking, and there is a risk of some of those blocks falling down. They are all aesthetic bricks, they're not to do with the actual structure of the building itself. And the risk of them falling is relatively low because they would require someone to run into it with some force, which the type of activities going on in there are very, very unlikely, but they do need to be fixed as soon as possible at the same time. This group considered looking ahead, because the idea of the group is to consider the development of the centre as a whole. The group had to consider whether it was worth spending money on that building now to undertake those tasks, if they were going to say at some point completely knock down the sports hall and do away with the sports hall altogether. But the consideration of the group was actually that the sports hall makes a lot of money for the leisure centre. It's a good facility and should be retained as best as possible in any future development. So that leads us to the position of therefore being able to do the work on that. And what we want to do before we undertake any work is to take out a structural survey to make sure that there isn't anything else that we're unaware of that needs doing before we done that.
Summary, Matthew, thank you.
Okay, I'm going to say sort of more that like you. Okay, well, is everyone happy to support that?
Yeah.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, you've got that. Thank you, members. Right, item 12. It's on page 61, Friendly Woodford Park update. Does anyone wants to add anything to that? I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory, but.
no, I think they've done a very good job.
Yeah, good. Carol?
Yes, I'd like to see, again, it's just a report, you'll nod wisely or sagely, whichever. And then kind of nothing happens. I mean, there was a point raised in the last but one paragraph of their report on page 61 that comments about the lack of replanting in the garden remembrance and abandoned beds at the leisure centre. Surely that should be on an agenda somewhere so we can discuss that. And if so, which agenda? And then following on from that, we've had a report in the Parks and Buildings on item 7, at least a minute that their concern of the Friends in this report is reflected in the action being taken by the council in terms of parks, etc. Otherwise, why are they reporting to us? So I think we need to show some degree of reply, if you like, or minuting what's being done.
Rob?
Thank you, Michael. Carol, thank you for your points there. I liaise with David Bowens regularly. We email and WhatsApp, and occasionally I see him. And I'm pleased to say, walking over this evening, I noticed their bags there, so they've had a good old session today, which is hats off to them. The weather's been appalling driving back up from Cornwall today. I'm sure it's rained a lot here. So David sends this to me.
few weeks ago. And I thank him for it, and we might discuss some of the points in it. And then I get hold of this report like a little Rottweiler, and I fire off messages left, right, and centre, mainly to poor old Kevin over there, so he can action them and come back with answers to this committee. And you'll see in the agenda today, we've discussed the path, the flooding, the path over the far side of the park, and the bit through the middle here. So we are bringing those points up. And the water trough in the Garden of Remembrance as well. So we are bringing those bits up. I'm reporting them back to David if I need to. But thank you. Yes, we haven't actually come up with the replanting in the Garden of Remembrance. So that will now be on Kevin's list, won't it, Kevin?
Yes, I'll have one notice to update on that the next time.
But believe me, I am quite tenacious, and we do back and forwards a few emails, and I do. Lights normally, isn't it? I'm normally on 2-4, but I do keep. Yeah, I'm probably a burden to him sometimes.
Yes, I think we can link those.
I do understand that. What I'm saying is, if anybody hadn't attended this meeting, or 3 or 4 people may be listening, they wouldn't know that anything was being done with regard to what was being reported by the Friends. It's just what we're doing anyway, and I think somewhere it ought to be that's shown. This has been brought to our attention, and we are doing this.
Can we pick that up in the minutes?
I'm just trying to look back, because what I've been trying to do since this has become a forward thing for the last couple of meetings is capture the comments that we make in relation to responding to the points they're making in those reports, especially those key points. And then making a note that obviously that will be replied back to David, and I have been emailing David after a meeting to say, right, the points you raised were X, Y, and Z, and that is the response. So the minutes do try and reference that. If you think they could be better, then do please give that feedback to me, because that would be really helpful. As I say, like, I would pick up from this things like the lack of decent parts. We've already commented about the project, so I can respond to David with that earlier in the meeting. That was discussed in this. So I can pick up on those comments you do. So as long as I think you as a committee have picked up on those key points and know that they've been talked about, I will make sure that they're recorded in the minutes.
It just may be a comment from you, Matt, into the minutes to say that you will be replying to the Friends.
Yeah.
To the following points, I think, something like that. But it's just recognising somebody's bothered to report, and they do some amazing work. We should be.
Definitely contacted him after the last couple of meetings to say that. Well, I'll try and make sure that that's kind of clear in here that will take place.
Thank you. Yeah, great.
Right, anybody else on that one? Thank you. Coronation seating. That's me.
So just in summary, some members may remember funds were allocated by full council last year to deliver a coronation seating project. The design proposal presented at the time wasn't considered appropriate, and officers were asked to come up with something else. So the money was allocated, and with that general purpose. And what officers have done is drafted a design for something in Woodford Park, which sort of comprises a community herb garden and orchard area with commemorative seating that would make use of the space to the rear of Coronation Hall, where there's currently a community orchard space, but with some trees that aren't in great shape. So the intention is to create a space that complements the planted beds created by the Friends of Woodford Park, and also provides a community resource in terms of the orchard fruit, and also commemorating the King's coronation. There's some images there on pages 64 and 65, which are not a detailed final design, but they are indicative of the style of the design and of the seating that we're looking at, and show an approximate layout. Details of the actual plant and measurements established by the communities manager in doing the task. And members are asked to approve the design proposal on that basis.
Robert Lloyd.
Robert first, you were just fine.
You got my eye.
Thank you. This looks fantastic, brilliant pictures, fantastic. But in 15 years' time, when all these wooden benches have rotted into dust,
we won't have anything left. Can we have something perhaps in stone?
That's silence the room.
I think what we would be looking to do is keep them in good condition, in terms of seating around the park in really good condition, much better than we ever used to replace the stuff when they're damaged. And I think we would replace our parks should they become damaged or worn over time. Yes, the skills in-house and the budget in-house to do that.
Good answer.
Just,
Rob and then Carol. Oh, sorry, I can carry.
so what was the diameter of this seating area?
So. Don't have the measurements.
Roughly.
Looks about 6 meters to me.
So. Taking a guess really the area between, you're looking at the image with the pink seats on. I think that's probably about 8 meters across there.
So my next question, I think it's excellent compared to what we had before. Is it possible that we can incorporate some sculpture within this seating area?
Going forwards, that's something we have been talking about. It's just something I've had an eye on for a while, some sort of sculpture around.
Linked to Woodley.
We've got some ideas around that. We're talking to Brian about it as well, to try and look at the town centre with some park going forwards. That would be amazing. That would lend itself to it.
Like Douglas Bader, for example.
Carol?
Yes, two comments. I like the idea of Rob has a stone seating. I think even if you did had gabions with wooden tops to them, then that's, I think it's just that natural material, but it would last a bit longer. I'm just a bit concerned about the herbs. Sounds lovely, various popular herbs, but a lot of herbs aren't green in the winter. They can be a bit straggly, to put it mildly. And I think they will look lovely when they're first planted, but I have my doubts as they go on. And I think some sort of aromatic plants might be better. I thought of box, for example. I presume lavender is going to be part of it. So there was a concern about the word popular herbs.
Yeah.
And also, if we're planting trees, can we plant bulbs around them at the same time?
Yes, is the answer to both. In terms of the herbs and the actual plants, I mean, this would be something that will change over time. I think we'll see what works, what doesn't, and change it over time. A couple of the grounds guys are really keen on taking it on as a project, so to speak.
As long as we don't end up with ornamental grasses.
Yeah, I think the purpose of it is something sensory.
Sorry,
Yeah, please.
I just thought to add that you could have a stump with all the logs or stumps that you've got left over in top of trees. You could put a stump in the corner.
Yeah. On this one, I think I asked, because I'm a little bit confused, and then we got seats, sort of the 3 seats, then we got like on the bottom right. Put that one there. Is that an alternative, or is that?
So yes, that is just indicative of what the style of the garden. Kind of look at the layout on here.
Yeah.
Is more of with the pink ones there being the white single seating, so not the seating that you can see.
Okay, it's just
in the picture, but it's just shows a kind of feel.
Okay.
What it's all.
Okay. So we just really after to approve the design of the seating.
Yeah.
We should include the indicative design.
Yes.
Indicative design,
Yeah,
yes.
it's better than white plastic, yeah.
It's sort of a bit of a flavour of what it could look like.
Yeah. Great idea, I think it's brilliant. There's a superb location for it as well, I think.
Okay.
Backing up in the back of the Coronation Hall, links the, like nicely, I think.
Yeah. So is everyone supportive of that? It's got logs all the way around.
Yep.
Thank you, members. Now we've got page 66, item 14, outdoor sport fire floats.
So, Ed, I might hand over to you here to just explain a bit of the background, okay, thinking, and the appendix.
To be honest, it's quite simple. We've been working with our internal auditor over the last couple of weeks ago. And he's just recommended formalising a couple of things really. So you can see the recommendations at the bottom there. But number one is basically kind of formalising the fact that the partner clubs, 3G pitch partner clubs, our two partner clubs, receive off-peak rates during peak times. That's been ongoing since the pitch has been built. And that, I think that comes from originally the fact that the rate itself was called the partner club rate. That caused quite a lot of public confusion with casual hirers looking to make use of the pitch and asking what a partner was. So we reverted back to peak and off peak, and basically the auditor is recommending we just kind of formalise that so that it's written down somewhere. And similarly, really, the mini pitch hire rate, something that basically missed off the charges, but it's a well-used rate and really good for some of our kind of small-sided football bookings, I suppose, for little ones, which is just £13 an hour. So the proposal there is those two things. I would also like the fact that I could use the £13 rate for the 3G as well. It just means that if, for example, I get a big inquiry for a football tournament, I can quote the same price basically, rather than have to quote two different ones, which is really useful. And it would allow me a bit of flexibility when kind of negotiating with potential hires.
Okay, thank you. Anyone? I noticed at the top, this is approved charges. Is it just for noting one? No,
This,
but that's all in
yeah, okay, so because these two charge rates haven't been approved to the charge set. So these are the appendix are the approved charges. So what the recommendation on page 66 of the report asks is that members recommend the introduction of the higher rates as set in the report to the Strategy and Resources Committee. As it's a charge rate, it formally does need to go through, get through SNR.
Wanted to understand that one. Okay, is everyone happy for that to happen? Okay, yeah, we got that. Okie dokie. Item number 15. Any future agenda items anyone wants included? If anyone can't think of them now, then either Matt or Kevin know. They can be included. Okay. And listen to your website. Anything anybody wants to include?
Right, quick one. Your report from the Friends of the Earth, could that go on the website or does it already do that?
Doesn't, does it?
I mean, it's in the agendas, it's on the website. I know it's more like it's less likely for people to come and find it, but at the same time, because it's not a news item, it's a report from a separate organisation.
They've got their own page on there. They've got their own.
They actually do, we have a page on there that provides some information, directs people through to them if they want to.
Right, okay.
They have a very active Facebook page as well.
Facebook.
Not if you're under 40, no.
Unless you've got something on it today.
Not like I'm under 40, but I'm saying my friends, but kids don't do
If you're under 40,
Potential.
TikTok video, yeah, he'll be right. Little 30 second clip.
Okay. Thank you very much.